Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from 88FILMS and welcome to our Backlog Cleared video. And we're back to 88FILMS and this is a fairly hodgepodge. So this is the Slasher collection, which I haven't really bought too many titles from a while. The Vault collection, which is spine numbered, but again I don't have that many of them. And the 88FILMS kind of standard releases, if you like, that don't have spine numbers or don't really belong to any of their catalogue. So again, this will just be a brief look at another backlog cleared. Obviously, probably the kind of standard releases are the ones that I'll probably will add to, and I will do an Italian collection backlog cleared as well. I do have more of them, even though I've got rid of some of them over the last year or so, but I'll probably do that in a separate video because I still have a fair number of those ones. So without further ado, I'll just go to this kind of random pile, which, as I said, is a bit of a hodgepodge of titles, but we'll start with 1988's The Couch Trip with Dan Aykroyd, Charles Grodin, Walter Matthau, Chevy Chase is in it, Donna Dixon, Richard Romanus and Ari Gross. This is a comedy, strangely enough, about Dan Aykroyd, who is a mental patient who's got out of an asylum, and through circumstance he happens to take over Charles Grodin, who's a psychiatrist, his radio show, and becomes a hit. Yes, it's one of those comedies. From 1988, directed by Michael Ritchie. Pretty much picked his up for Walter Matthau. Obviously this is late Walter Matthau. This is before Grumpy Old Men. But as usual, he does use his face with great aplomb. Next is Creepshow 2. Not as good as the first Creepshow, but again, this is Romero and King, even though it's not actually directed by George Romero. Again, fun stuff. You've got the Native American outside a hardware shop that comes alive and kills people. You've got the strange rectangular oil slick in a lake that kills people, and a couple of other little tales, bookended as usual with the comics. Next is a video hit. I remember renting from the video store back in the day. Again, a Hemdale film, so you kind of know what that is like if you have memories of VHS days. This is Criminal Law with Gary Oldman and Kevin Bacon. You couldn't make a film like this now because they're older. So it's Kevin Bacon, who is a rich kid who is on trial for a brutal murder, and Gary Oldman is defending him, but he kind of knows something is afoot. This is also from 1988, and it's a lot of cheesy fun. Next is a Richard Lester film that I had never seen until I watched it. This is Cuba with Sean Connery. and Brooke Adams. Remember when Brooke Adams was pretty big? This is from 1979. Also stars Hector Alonso, or Elizondo even, Denham Elliott, Mark Balsam, Chris Sarandon, Lynette McKee, because Richard Lester's always got to have a good cast. Yeah, it's actually very good. Again, as I said, I'd never seen this before, and it was one of the Richard Lester films that I was going to get around to eventually. But it is actually very enjoyable, at 2 hours long. Next, a film that now has a 4K. This is a lot of fun, and if this wasn't Vincent Price's last film, I've got a feeling it was Edward Scissorhands Vincent Price's last film, but must be certainly one of Vincent Price's last films. This is the wonderful Dead Heat, with a snazzy slipcover, with Treat Williams and Joe Piscopo. Remember when Joe Piscopo was big, for those 5 minutes? Darren McGavin's also in it as well. This is just so much fun. That's the original artwork, which I think it's Vinegar Syndrome that has the 4K of it. Great effects, as people literally kind of fall apart. We'll get to that later. Dead Heat is a lot of fun. Again, I think I rented that in the VHS days as well. Next, from 1975, Pam Grier and Yaphet Kotto and Friday Foster. I mean, you can't beat that. Yaphet Kotto, Eartha Kitt's in this. I think Godfrey Cambridge is in it as well. I mean, you can't beat that. Produced and directed by Arthur Marks. And Friday Foster is a journalist in this one, who gets up and gets involved in witnesses an assassination, and then gets into serious trouble. Carl Weathers is also in this, who we lost recently. I mean, it's Pam Grier, Yaphet Kotto. I mean, come on. Next is a film that I often mention quite a lot, so I'm going to mention it again. It's Matewan, and this is obviously the 88 Films release. This is a wonderful release. Again, the Criterion, this release and the French Blu-ray release that I think I showed off in another video, they all have different extras, so you have to buy all of them. Do it now. Yeah, one of the films of the 80s for me. Just an absolutely beautiful film, considering they made it for, I think it's like $3 million. It looks absolutely glorious. The music's great by Mason Daring, who again, in the Sale style, kind of uses local musicians and from the area and from the time. Shot by Axel Wexler. It just looks like old yellowing photographs. It's just absolutely beautiful. Complete masterpiece, and it's great that 88 Films released a Region B for those people that are region locked and couldn't get the Criterion Region A. Next, lovely Miami Vice, which is a relatively new release as well, with this gorgeous shiny slipcover. That's kind of the standard Blu-ray poster or artwork. Michael Mann, certainly one of his most underrated. This is just about brilliant, but of course people at the time, it didn't do very well because people thought they were going to get a brightly coloured 80s action knockoff the way the Starsky and Hutch film was with Ben Stiller, and it's like, if you actually watch the TV show's pretty gritty and dark, and it's not all about bikinis and Armani suits, so it wasn't actually a surprise that this was dark, but it disappointed a lot of people. But every time you watch it, it gets better and better. This is a 2-disc, which has the theatrical cut, which is 132 minutes, and the director's cut, which I prefer, which is 139 minutes, which has a different opening. Yeah, just an absolutely brilliant man film. There's a booklet and poster as well, with the 2 discs with the 2 different cuts. You could make the argument this is man's last great film. Yeah, and it's got a lovely, lovely slipcover if you like that sort of thing. And then another really underrated little film again. Like I saw this in VHS and I hadn't seen it since, until I bought this. And this is Mystery Men, which is a lovely homage to perhaps the not most successful superhero films, but I would rather watch this than any Marvel film. This is Ben Stiller, Hank Azaria, Gian Garofalo, William H. Macy, Paul Rubens, Greg Kinnear, Jeffrey Rush, and Eddie Izzard. And Eddie Izzard isn't quite terrible, as he generally is in every film he's in. And again, this is it has a nice booklet as well. Again, it's just a lot of fun. I don't have a ton of Ben Stiller films. I think this possibly is the only Ben Stiller film I have in actual fact. That's Mystery Men. And then finally, a film that I recently picked up in the 2 for 15, which HMV and FOP in the UK are doing, which I think is possibly still going on. I think it'll probably be stopping relatively soon. I'm not a big Sherlock Holmes fan, but I do have quite a lot of Sherlock Holmes films. So this is a 7% Solution, which is somewhat of a different take on the story. Friend of the channel, Nazarene Prod, did a recent video of the 7% Solution in the private life of Sherlock Holmes. You can go check that out on his channel. This is a lovely one, and as you can see with the title, 7% Solution, this is about Sherlock Holmes' cocaine addiction, and Watson, played by Robert Duvall, who does actually a pretty good job considering he's playing Dr. Watson. And it's the only, I think it's possibly the only adaptation outside the BBC TV show with Benedict Cumberbatch that actually has Dr. Watson with a limp. And Dr. Watson arranges for Holmes to chase his nemesis, Moriarty, played by Laurence Olivier, who's not quite an arch nemesis, to basically see Sigmund Freud, played by Alan Arkin, and then they get involved in not only trying to cure Holmes' addiction, but investigating a mystery involving Vanessa Redgrave. It co-stars Joel Grey, Samantha Egger, Charles Grey, Georgia Brown, written and directed by Nicholas Meyer from his own novel. It's a bit manic at times, but once it gets going, it really is quite wonderful. Nicole Williamson is a pretty wonderful Sherlock Holmes. I mean, Williamson's almost Christopher Walken, kind of before Christopher Walken as far as line deliveries, and he just has that one of those great voices of cinema. So next we'll go to the 88 Films Vault, which I have got rid of a couple of these, but there's 3 titles that I have kept because they're a lot of fun. Number 2 from 1973 is Joe Bullitt. This is a fascinating little film from South Africa, made entirely by a black cast. It was banned under apartheid, but there's actually nothing in it that's kind of anti-apartheid or anti-government. It's basically a noir, but it's about soccer, and a team that's trying to poach a couple of players from the other team that they've just drawn a cup final with, and in the 2 weeks before the replay, the bad team wants to poach 2 players off the good and honourable team, and to protect them, the bosses bring in Joe Bullitt, Ken Gampu, to protect them. For what it is, as far as it's low budget, it's actually a lot of fun. If you put aside the whole history of it and it was banned in South Africa, it's just really enjoyable. Is it a great film? No, but again, for the money they're working on, they're working with, the film stock they shot it on. It's actually has nice set pieces. It's actually really enjoyable, and it's well worth a look. Apart from the historical impact of it. Number 5 is Street Trash, which again is a fun little body horror, which features a very bad drink called Viper that will literally clean you out. Again, lots of fun from 1987. Again, a VHS title, no doubt, even though I don't really remember it from the VHS days. But well worth a look if you like some messy fun. And this certainly, messy fun definitely applies to the next one. Number 10 from 1993 is Body Melt from Australia. You can see if you're a fan of Neighbours, the Australian soap opera. There's a main character who I now cannot remember the name of. It's great, great special effects, as literally people are melting. Perhaps don't eat anything before you watch it, because it is fairly, as you can tell there, it's fairly messy, but it's also a lot of fun. So that's Body Melt. So that's my Vault collection, and then I'll just go through my slashers, so to speak. Number 8 from 1987 is Dead of Winter. We do like these red cases. This isn't really a slasher, it's more of a psychological thriller directed by Arthur Penn, of all people, with Mary Steenburgen. Yeah, and it's actually more of a thriller. It is kind of sort of a remake of My Name is Julia Ross, which I have on Arrow Academy, about a woman whose identity is essentially taken from her. Number 10 is The Boogeyman, directed by Uli Lommel. Again, it's actually been a while since I've watched these. I probably need to rewatch them. That is the downside of having a YouTube channel. You don't rewatch as much stuff as you probably should. Again, I have got rid of some of these over the years. Number 12 from 1981 is a film that was on the video nasty list, but again, with the majority of those films, you kind of look back at them and go, why were these on the video nasty list? Because they're not that bad. Nightmares on a Damaged Brain, which is a lot of fun, about mental health gone wrong. Number 16 from 1988 is Scarecrows, which is a lovely little film considering it doesn't have much of a budget at all. From 1983, this is by Number 21, and this is Prosy, also known as Olivia, also known as Double Jeopardy. But again, this isn't really a slasher either. This is more a drama about a victim of sexual assault who escapes from Britain to America, but her past follows her. So it's not really a slasher. From 1990, number 22, this is another VHS film that I rented at one point. And this is the first Power, probably Lou Diamond Phillips' finest performance, and Tracy Griffith, sister Melanie Griffith, with her finest performance, about a satanic serial killer. Again, not really a slasher. From 1989, Spine number 23, this is a slasher. This is Intruder, and it's a slasher based in a supermarket. So prices aren't the only things they're slashing. This is a really fun one, really gory, some interesting fun kills, as horror fans would say. Pretty brutal, but well worth a look, and it does have a really interesting ending. From 1976, Spine number 35, which has an Arrow Region A release as well, I think. This is Alice, Sweet Alice, which is actually a wonderful little film starring Brooke Shields. This is her first film. I think she was 10 at the time. She made some strange films when she was a young child. And then they started, at one point, they started putting slipcovers on these releases. So from 1980, Spine number 41, it's Terror Train with Jamie Lee Curtis. You can't have enough Jamie Lee Curtis early 80s, late 70s horror films. This one's on a train. Steven Seagal does not turn up. From 1980 as well, number 42 is Christmas Evil. So many Santa slashers. Again, this one's a lot of fun as well. From 1980 again. 1980 was a good year for slashers, obviously. Number 43 is Schizoid with Klaus Kinski. It's Klaus Kinski after all. Again, that's got the slipcover, and this one's got a black case. Christmas Evil had a white case. Obviously they ran out of red cases at some point. And then finally, Spine number 44 from 1983. This is another odd one. This is Charles Bronson in 10 to Midnight. Yeah, again, perhaps, well, sort of a slasher, I guess. Directed by J. Lee Thompson, who really ought to know better. And this has the wonderful scene of the killer chasing a car naked at the end of the film, in the film's climax. I mean, generally all these releases do have a ton of extras as well. But again, I think they still are releasing them, possibly, but they're not that prodigious. Again, as I said, I've got rid of some of them, so I don't have a ton. I mean, if you go to Mondo Chevalier, that's not how you say it, Films, I mean, he's got the complete collection if you want to see a complete collection. Again, just like 88 Asia and 88 Slasher and 88 Italian, I'm never going to be complete on them, and that's absolutely fine. Again, you can argue, certainly in the Slasher collection, how many of them are great films. Possibly none, but you know, cinema is a smorgasbord, and there's lots of fun to be had in that big pile of red stuff. So thanks very much for watching. Apologies for the fact it is a bit bitty with random sections and random titles. but it's another backlog cleared. It counts until I buy more of them. So thanks so much for watching. Please let me know which ones you enjoy the most, or which ones from the Slasher collection or Vault collection I should pick up. Thanks very much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.